You've probably seen this story because it went quite viral. Two Harvard students, whiz kids, invented something straight out of Black Mirror. Using smart glasses, a tiny camera filmed everyone they saw, scanned their face, and then, using AI, pulled up information on who they are and where they lived. Is this the coolest gizmo ever, or a terrifying and dystopian invasion of privacy? And why exactly did they invent this? Well, today we have one of the inventors himself speaking from the Harvard campus on this episode of AI Curious. My name is Jeff Wilser. I'm a journalist, I'm a human, and I'm curious about AI. And today I am joined by AnhPhu Nguyen, who along with fellow Harvard students, Caine, Ardayfio, hacked a pair of Ray-Ban metaglasses that can secretly film people and learn their identity. They call the gadget the I-XRAY. Now, this story has gone insanely viral. I first heard about it in a text thread with friends, hat tip to Dan, who sent the link along with a comment, "This isn't terrifying or anything." It was first reported by The Register, covered by Forbes, and eventually made its way to the front page of the New York Times. As Forbes writer Davey Winder said, "This has to be one of the wildest hacking projects I've ever covered. It blows bicycles and light bulbs out of the water. It's fascinating, wonderful, and terrifying all at once." I would agree. And here's what you need to know. AnhPhu and Caine essentially took gadgets that already existed and were already legal, and they sort of snapped them together like Lego pieces to create this device. It only took them 4 days. They took a pair of smart glasses, Meta Ray-Bans 2s, which can live stream video, and they hooked that into a facial detection software. They used a reverse image search company called PimEyes to find websites where the faces appear. And here's where the AI kicks in. They used LLMs to sort of comb through all these websites and find the person's name, and then could look up their home address. So as an experiment, they walked around the subway, they looked at people, they filmed them, and would say things like, "Hey, aren't you Joe such and such? Don't I know you from yada yada?" You get the idea. And then they posted this on Twitter, and of course, Twitter went crazy. Now, there is a crucial bit of context here that's often left out of the headlines and is sometimes lost when the story gets shared. And that's this. AnhPhu and Caine are very, very aware of the privacy questions this raises, and the entire point of the experiments was to raise awareness of these issues. In fact, even before they announced the hack, they prepared a Google Doc that anyone can view. There's a link to it in the show notes of this podcast about how you can find out if you have any of this personal data online, and then how to get rid of it, how to expunge it, how to make you, as they call it, unsearchable by these types of facial recognition tools. And as AnhPhu tells me in our conversation, they have been approached by investors willing to throw them money to develop this tech. And they have said each time, thanks, but no thanks. They did not hack this device together to get rich or to make it a reality. They wanted people to realize this kind of creepy, invasive tech is closer than we think. In fact, it's already here today. So if that's the case, we need to start thinking about guardrails now. We need to start thinking about privacy now. We need to start thinking about the tools AI will be enabling now. AnhPhu gets into all of that in our conversation. And I have to say, preemptively, this is one of the more real convos that I've done on AI Curious. It's very much on location, if you will. AnhPhu is studying engineering at Harvard, and you can kind of tell from the background noise, it sounds like he's in a student cafeteria. That's my guess. There's a clatter of dishes, the chairs moving back and forth. I'm leaving all of that in. I think of it more as a feature, not a bug. You can almost visualize the mediocre student food. It feels very raw and real. So with that, please enjoy my conversation with AnhPhu Nguyen, co-creator of the inventive and terrifying I-XRAY. AnhPhu, welcome to the pod.
Hey, yeah, nice to meet you. Thanks for having me.
So your motivation for this experiment this wild, amazing experiment and terrifying experiment, as I understand it, was not to be like, rah, rah, yeah, this is awesome, but to demonstrate the privacy dangers of smart tech and AI. A, is that true? And B, what specific events or observations or insights kind of inspired you to do this?
Yeah, great question. So yes, this posting was definitely for awareness. That was the goal of posting this. I mean, we did. I mean, as inventors, wanted our work to go viral, go big. But I mean, I guess to give more context, me and Caine both have been building for many years together, and we just build a lot of projects. We post them online. Multiple of them have gone viral in the past. But we're just interested in like combining new tech and seeing like the interesting things you can do with new technology. And it originally started out as an interesting side project, like, oh, I can like identify my friends using this. This is pretty interesting. So as we added more functionality, like home address, etc., we we became like it became very clear to us that it was definitely a huge privacy issue. And so we decided on a multitude of things, including like not open sourcing anything, no live demo, simply for awareness. We also wrote a guide on how to like delete yourself so that this tool becomes immediately ineffective for you. And yeah, we've gotten a ton of offers for people offering a lot of money to like buy this technology or like buy our software, but we haven't made a single dollar. So yeah.
Love that. Please stay true to that North Star. Love it.
Yeah.
What surprised you most about how this all played out? And that could be either in the actual tinkering and designing and building it, or the reaction to what happens.
Yeah. So like in the building of it, I was quite surprised, like just how much data there was available publicly online about everybody. I mean, I didn't really know about people search databases until I started building this project. And then we realized, oh, once you find out someone's name, you can reasonably get their home address too. And then that same database can also link to a correct phone number. And there's literally a database that connects your phone number to social security number. So what surprised me most was just like how many people didn't know that their social security number was leaked, like basically every American's. How many people didn't know reverse face search engines existed, people search engines existed. So all three of these are pretty surprising to people. And then regarding the reaction, I mean, we spent a ton of time. I mean, we coded this in like 4 days. We spent the rest of the time writing the communication. So the video, the write-up, etc. But like, we were quite surprised how quickly misinformation was spread, like, or how quickly like people lost the message. Like we put the write-up linked right in the title of our post, but when you're on TikTok or Instagram Reels, you just share the video, right? And like most people just don't put the link to the thing. So everyone's just like super scared that we just expose this problem with no solution. But yeah, like I spent like 3 days straight like commenting under these big posts saying like, oh, like this is the way you can like solve this. Like so yeah, we've been doing a lot of that. I was quite surprised by that. I mean, another happy accident that came out of this was because it went so big. We're talking to a couple think tanks, even about like maybe changing policy on like if people search engines like these could exist, things like that. So there's those conversations.
Yeah, we'll get to policy in a minute. I'm very curious in your thoughts on that and kind of the way forward. On a quick technical note, and you've been very generous with kind of how you did this without divulging the secret sauce. You've kind of shared in broad strokes the main kind of Lego pieces you fit together. The one thing I'm a little confused by that when I read about this in Forbes, New York Times, and so on, of all the various steps in this, is how you combined PimEyes, the face search engine, with what has been described as a quote chat GPT like tool. And it's like it's a little fuzziness there.
Yeah.
And I understand large language models, LLMs are used. Can you elaborate without arming the bad guys? Can you elaborate a little more detail of how you use AI LLMs in combination with that PimEyes to make this magic happen, or dark sorcery happen, if you will?
Yeah. So basically, fundamentally, what we use is like an LLM to figure out from disparate data, like from a bunch of data, intelligently figure out who it is from that data. So a face search engine returns links to where you appear online, um,
Hmm.
where it has like high probability that you are mentioned in these online websites,
So, for
like your
example, if
name.
it's like my photo is in a high school yearbook, a high school website, it would see my photo, and then
Yeah.
you would they'd be able to access my high school name and year
So
and address and all that stuff.
yeah, exactly. And like, because it has multiple sources to select from, if a name shows up most across all of these articles, then the LLM can automatically kind of figure out what their name is. And once you figure out their name, other personal details using the LLM as well. Mhm. And then, yeah, there's also a couple other large language model stuff. The whole reason this pipeline is now automatic is because of large language models.
Got it. Now, on the ethics front, there's a lot going on here, right? And as I
Yeah.
understand it, the thrust of your motivation, aside from just doing cool shit as an adventurer, is to expose and bring to light some of these privacy and ethical concerns. Let's unpack that some more. What aspects of this project strike you as the most ethically problematic?
Um, you're asking like uh, what that we did was the
Well,
most.
so let me clarify it. Not that you guys
Yeah.
yourselves were being unethical, but if this were to go mainstream,
You're,
because you're exposing awareness,
yes,
right? You're
I
raising
see. Yeah.
awareness of, okay, this is the idea that because the way I'm thinking of this, there are a few different components to this. One is if you're the real time being able to real time see someone on a subway platform and know their home address, or is it the fact that their address exists in the first place online, or is
You're,
it about the wearable tech lets you constantly record everything and people being recorded without them realizing it? And even though the glasses you use did have a light flashing saying it's recording, it's easy to imagine a world where that doesn't exist and people are recording surreptitiously. So
I
I
see.
guess what I'm getting at
Gotcha.
is there are like at least 3 to 5, areas here that all raise some red flags ethically.
Yeah.
What to you do you find most chilling and is most important to you to kind of raise awareness of these various privacy and ethical problems?
Yeah. Okay. I see. I think that's a good question. I mean, I think one of the biggest ones that I was quite surprised about was the home address thing. I think the reason for this, if I recall correctly, is um, a while ago the government decided that we should publish registered voters' addresses and names in order to make it so anyone could verify that democracy was working correctly and there was no vote
Mm,
fraud happening, is what I understand. And that was before the internet really got really popped off and before data brokers became a thing. I think we could I think one of the most ethically uh, important things here is to figure out whether these data brokers should be able to make this fully public for free. Anyone can just go online and do this. And it's like a game of whack-a-mole too. Like you opt out of
yeah.
one, there's more that pop up. So I think it's a big policy change in that regard potentially. And then with regard to um, yeah, like this tool, I think the big reason why we expose this is for social engineering purposes as well. Like now people know that it's possible. Maybe you could identify a random person on the street and not to just trust anyone who comes up to you who claims to know you. Um, I think that's a huge thing that kind of everybody knows now, and before no one really knew.
Absolutely. And in some ways, this kind of gets at this age old trade off between security and privacy on the one hand, and then convenience on the other, right? And I mean, I
Yeah,
guess what you're already just kind of getting into this. Most of the time, most people, we're lazy. I'm lazy. We opt for convenience. Like, sure, just take my data,
yeah.
do you think this is kind of the takeaway that we're giving
we're generally giving up too much of our information. And so we need to kind of be more guarded about that? Or is it that these data brokers and scrapers are just really good at cobbling all these digital scraps together?
Yeah, good question. I mean, I think personally, and this is just my opinion, is like I'm fine with my personal details regarding like my interest, career, other things, hobbies online. That's totally fine. I mean, I want a lot of people to know about what I want to do so that they can collaborate with me, talk to me. Because I'm a very social person, but I think right to erasure should be like uh, a real thing. And for everything on the internet, like your digital identity is part of you, in my opinion, and you should be able to control what about you is expressed. I think regarding specifically home addresses, I think ideally that's an opt-in process instead of opt-out because I think that's just a bit more personally dangerous to people if that were an opt-out kind of view. But yeah.
You mentioned policy work and the think tanks. What do you want to see happen from a policy perspective? And more broadly, what do you think is the way forward for society so we're not ending up in a very dystopic place?
I think policy-wise, uh, the data broker thing is a huge deal. I think we should reevaluate whether this is a great thing to have, like public database of name to home address. And it's also a thing. It's also a thing that most people didn't know about, which is surprising. So maybe policy should be more both giving people awareness as to what the government mandates to publish, and also like whether it should mandate to publish in the first place. Um, and then reverse state search engines. I mean, um, I think there's a lot of people thinking about whether this should be legal or illegal. Um, there's a lot of biometric laws, especially in Illinois, thinking about how we can protect like biometrics and make things like these really hard to build so that people don't have to like opt out of every single one. Um, I mean, I think though, like other data, I think the internet. There's this guy who was part of our videos. He said the internet's becoming kind of a global village, making everything a global village, and maybe it's more also on us as people in society to kind of understand that, kind of accept that almost, because it seems inevitable that we are going to have even stronger digital identity
Yes.
in the next 10 years. And I think maybe people should be more comfortable with this fact.
I'm curious how companies like Meta and PimEyes reacted to the experiment.
Yeah. So basically, we, like most of their spokespeople have said that we broke their terms of service, which is fair. However, I guess to that, we just wanted, like, I guess like breaking the terms of service is something a bad actor doesn't really care about. And this whole pipeline, as far as we understand, is completely legal to run outside of the terms of service. So we broke the terms of service to show people that it is trivially possible, and like maybe we should think about this a bit more. I guess I mean overall it has been neutral. Yeah, neutral response.
That's very diplomatic. What safeguards or design principles would you recommend to future developers to ensure ethical use
of different technologies?
Yeah, just in general. Like, I mean, you're kind of at the bleeding edge of this type of tech.
Yeah.
You're a very thoughtful guy about both from an engineering perspective and also a privacy ethics perspective. You're a thoughtful guy. There might be other actors out there less thoughtful from the ethical perspective. Yeah. So what advice would you have to others building these kind of tools about instilling safeguards or the right design principles so it doesn't go to a dark place?
Yeah, that's an amazing question. I think this is becoming exponentially more important for the following reason, which is the internet and software and computers have allowed us to basically build extremely powerful technology. Like only like 2 or 3 people can build something that completely changes the world. And the leverage is 7, 8 billion people, right? Like for like what we develop works for everyone on the that's on the internet. And so I think developers, especially software developers, since their reach is so far, should in cases where personal data or personal privacy is concerned, think a lot about second order effects, like talk a lot to people who are not in the tech space, how they feel, and kind of think about how to roll out things like maybe not straight up open source. We've had so many people just say like, you have to open source this, like, and then we give them our like usual reply and they just like don't believe it. Like
Your usual reply? What's your usual reply to clarify?
to open sourcing or not?
So when you tell people we're not open sourcing, can you elaborate on what you tell them, why you're not going to do it?
Yeah. I think it's because I think I take kind of the stance of open AI on certain things where if it's a technology that someone like that you just release and someone can use it for a very bad purpose, like say you just open source a state of the art language model and someone can fine tune it to be extremely bad and then just like deploy it at scale to like spread misinformation everywhere. I think that's pretty bad. So like not open sourcing, but providing an API like that you can control maybe how it's used, things like that. Like I think open sourcing is not absolutely always true necessarily, like as the best thing to do. So just thinking more about like, open source, releasing products, like how you should roll it out. I think just being more careful with that is like what I would advise developers.
Awesome. Well, I know last question is, I know you got to ramble to like literally classes and college and stuff. So I respect that. But what do you want to do now personally? I feel like you have just created one of the world's greatest resumes in the tech world. It's a very 2024 tech resume. I imagine you have an unlimited menu of options for you professionally. What do you want to do? What's your goal for you professionally?
I've been employed for the past 3 years, but I've always been doing startups for a long time. I mean, I started my first company when I was 16. So I'm trying to figure out what company I'm trying to build next. My main skill set is in hardware/manufacturing. And that's been all of my jobs in the past. So I want to build like crazy like machinery inventions that maybe combine complex software/AI, whether it's in recycling, whether it's in construction, like maybe like nationalizing supply chains. I think those are all interesting to me, but I'm very much in explore phase right now. Just finished the glass project, dealing with a lot of press. So no big progress after we finish this for so.
All right, sir. Well, I know you're a busy guy. I know you have classes to get to and wild new inventions to create. I'll let you get back to it. Thanks again for taking the time and appreciate you raising awareness. Thanks again.
Yeah, appreciate it. All right, take care.
Well, there you have it. Thanks again to AnhPhu Nguyen for taking the time. Clearly, he and his colleague, Caine Ardayfio, are going places. I also want to stress this is not meant to be a celebration of creepy tech, but a red flag raising awareness of creepy tech. I appreciate his warnings and advice to other developers. I hope they take heed. If this is your first time at AI Curious, forward this to a developer in your life who is building what could be dark tech and help them not make it so creepy and weird. Please consider subscribing to AI Curious on Apple, Spotify, YouTube. Leave a comment on the YouTube videos. Forward to friends. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.